What is up, everybody? Welcome to my first ever Lightroom tutorial. Today I'm going to teach you how to do Moody Tones and basically go from something like this to that. If you don't have access to Lightroom, you can use any other app that has similar tools to the things that we're going to be using today, which include exposure, HSL sliders, a little bit of clarity, and vignetting. So as you can see to the side of me, my monitor is off, and that's because everything that we're going to be doing today is actually going to be on mobile. And the photo that I'm editing is straight from my mirrorless camera, but I've experimented with this technique and it actually works on anything that can shoot raw photos, which also includes your iPhone. So check this out. If you go on your iPhone here, you may have to dab into settings, but once you find raw settings, you can actually just tap in the top right corner, raw, and now all of a sudden you got raw photos. So if you want to follow along actively, real quick, take your phone, probably just throw your hand out in front of it, move somewhere, make sure you're using the rear camera, and just get a cool backdrop, snag that photo, and you're ready to go straight into Lightroom. Okay, so in Lightroom, here is the final photo that we're talking about. So you can see it before, here's the after, and then I've basically made a duplicate and we're gonna be editing off of this and I'm gonna show you everything step by step. Okay, so step one, profiles. If you swipe all the way to the right, you'll see this tab that says profiles, and then you'll most likely see Adobe Raw, Adobe Color, and all this fun stuff down here. But what we're gonna wanna do actually is open that and then go down to artistic. And now check this out, artistic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's a bunch of fun different profiles. For this particular edit, I'm gonna go with artistic 3. It kind of pushes everything into this fall color. And just recently, Lightroom added this little bar right here that allows you to control the intensity. And you can see like, wow, we're going wild right there. And now the effect is basically gone. We're gonna keep it right at neutral. Boom. So from here, we're gonna move into light. And now the first adjustment we're gonna do is contrast. Take contrast and we're gonna throw it all the way to 100, which now makes the photo look kind of crazy, but trust me on this is gonna work out. From there, we're not gonna touch anything else. We're actually gonna move straight into color. And now basically what the contrast did is it used light to kind of push all the colors into the most intense values possible. From here, we're gonna take away the colors now, and we're gonna do that by using vibrance. So tapping the vibrance tool, we're gonna bring it down. I like to shoot for about -30. You can go a little lower if you want to. I would say don't go past 50 because you can't recover the colors in the next step. So from here, we're just gonna bring it down to about 30. You can go to 20 too if that's a little bit better, but that's looking good. Now, if I pull up the photo here, everything's looking a little more muted, which is kind of our base layer, if that makes sense. Moving into the next step, you're gonna move up here, move into mix. So from here, now is where we can really start experimenting with what colors we want to bring back. So the first step, contrast, pushed all the colors to the limits. The second step, vibrance, reduced all of these new colors we got. And now using the HSL sliders, this tab right here, we're gonna selectively bring back the colors we want to make the photo moody. So the first one I always go to is orange because skin usually sits on this color. So if I pinch and zoom right here, we're gonna go straight to saturation and play with that. So as I move this, I think we did around 65, 70. That's looking good. 70 is looking pretty solid. We'll leave it like that. So already at a glance, if I just tap and go back, the photo is looking pretty good. So the next thing we want to address is other unknown colors. Like if you ever see in a photo like a color that you're not sure what it may or may not be, tap this crosshair looking thing and then tap on the photo and then move it ever subtly. And you can see in the bottom, it says color mix. It's telling you this is some parts red, but mostly orange. And it gives you a better idea of what you're working with here. For example, oops, that's not good. We're gonna move over to the leaves. Like I think the leaves are a little distracting because there's a lot of colors going on. So I'll tap the crosshair, I'll put my finger on it, and now I can see it is yellow and green, which if you're taking a guess, it makes sense, but we're gonna move this around and actually we're on hue right now. So we don't wanna change hue, we wanna change saturation. Boom, and now we can completely shift the saturation of that down And now our greens are looking a little more muted, which, oh, that's better. There we go. So now if I pull back out and look at the overall adjustment, by shifting the saturation down of those colors, it's already starting to look a lot better. We can even fine tune it by tapping the specific color because we know what it is now, and we can continue to change that saturation. Now, one thing in a photo that really helps you define your subject is actually making the other things not as bright, if that makes sense. Usually your eyes go towards the brightest part of the image, and in my opinion, the leaves are probably brighter than me right now. So with that being said, we're gonna look at the luminance tool. Luminance is the brightness value of the specific color. Hopefully that makes sense. But from here, watch, if you just put your finger on it and go left and right, you can see what that is doing to the leaves over there. And since we want this a little bit more muted, we're gonna bring that down. Now the yellows are going down. We're gonna also bring the greens down, and you can see, like, since there's a lot more greens in here, the intensity is going crazy. And if you go too far down, it's starting to look like mud. We don't want that. So we'll go just enough to really tinker it down. And now, if you just look at this image as a whole, your eyes kind of naturally draw towards the center. So one more thing I like to do to really give that attention to detail for the photos is I'll look into the other colors. For example, cyan. If I move this around, it's like, what is that doing? Nothing really. Maybe the sky and the highlights. Kinda. It's very, very faint. We don't really have to mess with that. For here, blues, we'll move that around. Is that doing anything? Kinda, actually, to the backpack, to my pants right here. If you can see that off my beanie, here's an even better example. If I move it from my beanie, you can see my beanie shifting colors. Let's make it really, really gray. So we'll desaturate that. Boom. And now the next thing is purples. Is there any purples in this? Not really. We'll leave it slightly desaturated. And this pink, nothing there either. The final one, red. Red is a little tricky because sometimes the skin tones fall onto red as well. I'd say for reference, skin tones sit anywhere on red and orange. So watch, we'll play with this. You can see on the tip of my nose, it's already starting to change right there. And I would say we do want to bring that color back. So let's put red here. Nice. So now this is looking really good. From here, if I'm looking at this image, two things stand out, and you probably see it too. It's one, this red thing. Oh, that's actually a person. So we got to get rid of that. Let's go to the healing tool. Make sure you're on the band-aid right here, and we're just gonna take our finger, dab it, get rid of, oh, that's not good. I'm gonna pinch, zoom out. We need a better suggestion. And now let's see, how do we replace this person subtly? If I put the wood there like that, does that look good? Kinda. Will you notice that? Maybe. If I go all the way up here, ooh, that's looking seamless. I'm gonna tap it like this. If you're this close, it looks bad and it looks obvious. But if I zoom out like this, that is a lot better than that orange hat. So that's gone. Also, this person here, she looks like she's sightseeing. We gotta get rid of her. I'm sorry. We're gonna tap over there. Let's brush her out. It's so crazy how fast technology is moving these days. I'm gonna move this over here. Let's really clean that up. Bring this over there. Nice, that's looking good. This log is just really sticking out, so I'll add an additional brush right there to really clean that up. Boom. Lightroom, what are you doing? We'll bring this down over here and just line it up appropriately. Bam. Now, there's not a lot of distractions in the photos. All the colors are as intended. The last thing to do is to really, really refine that. And here, we're gonna go straight into our effects tab. So to do this, I used to be a really big fan of clarity. And if you check this out, I would bump it all the way like that and it would just be too intense. And these days I actually reduced the clarity. And reason being is because when you increase clarity, it gives that nice outline on your body and everything, on your image, but it also introduces like another layer of light, and it also desaturates your photo. So I noticed on the flip side, if you desaturate it, it kind of increases the saturation and it makes the whole image and the colors just blend a lot better. So these days I've been decreasing that. For this particular image, I don't think we're gonna really, let's see what dehaze does for us. This helps us define it a little bit more. I like that maybe right there. And as you can see, this is looking really, really good now. Watch, if I zoom out here and I just tap it, that's looking really good. Next tool that we're gonna touch base on is vignette, which I think is a super underrated tool. If you see, I just slowly tap it like that, all of a sudden, everything is drawing towards that center of the image. And to really clean this up, play around with midpoint, roundness, and feather. So midpoint kind of adjusts where that circular midpoint is at. But if I reduce it like this, you can kind of see it has this nice gradient leading towards me. And if I zoom out and I play with it, you can see that really being pronounced now. Roundness will affect the roundness of the vignette. Sometimes I'll play with that. This time I'll leave it at that level. Feather, I'll play with this too, and you can see what that does in the image. And I actually think I don't want to touch that at all. But as you can see, just changing the vignette here, it completely it completely changed the mood of the photo. So now, before, after, this is where we're at. There's one more thing I like to do with my photos, and I think this is like the secret sauce. Like if you ever see a photo that is just like extra sharp, this is what you got to do. So as you can see, I'm doing this on mobile. I'm gonna take the sharpening tool and I'm gonna bump it. And then with my other finger here, my thumb, I'm gonna tap on the screen and that grays it out. So now I can see what exactly I'm working with on the sharpening tool. So as I move it up, I think I'm gonna leave it probably at about 80. And now it's starting to look really sharp. Next, radius. So this is that thing that really outlines the subject. And watch, I'm gonna move the radius tool. We're gonna take the second finger, dab it so we get that gray screen. And if I bump it up here, you can start seeing a really pronounced layer. So for me, I like to go back and forth, and right before it starts going too crazy, I think that's gonna be it for me, 1.7. That's where I leave it at. Detail, I don't really touch unless I'm doing a skin photo. And in that case, I completely bring detail all the way down. But the last thing here that really ties it all together is the masking tool. So with masking, we'll do the same thing. We'll tap it, second finger here. And now we wanna make sure the mask is literally just on the subject only, or the intended part that you want to really highlight. So in this case, we're gonna zoom out and we're gonna make sure it's mostly on me. So as you can see in this grayed out image, it's kind of everywhere right now, but as I bump it up more, now it's becoming more and more pronounced. If I go all the way, it's just on the outlines of my clothes. We want a little bit more of me in there, so we'll sacrifice and we'll make the leaves a little bit sharper. There we go. But now we, the subject, are also sharp. So if I pull into this, as you can see, like, I don't know if you see it, it's very subtle, but you're kind of just, the subject is just really nice and crispy and just popping out now. If I zoom in here, really good example, if I tap my hat and go like that, you can kind of see the biggest difference right there. And now if I take the sharpening, since it's at about 81, and I reduce it, look at the outline around my face and the beanie. It's literally like, it's fuzzy. And then if I bring it all the way back up to 81, it's just tied and dialed in. And if you just look at it from an overall standpoint, in my opinion, this is one of those ways of getting like really nice, crispy, sharp photos. So that's about it. This is the look. If I tap before, this is after. I think that's a really solid look. And you can actually do this for almost any of your photos. I've tried it and it worked about 90% of the times. I don't think this will work good for food. So if you're into food photography, don't use this technique. But for landscape, for lifestyle, this will really work. One last thing before we go, if you actually go into profiles, you can tap and actually return back into the Adobe RAW. And you can see this is without that adjustment. And if you go back into the artistic, you can see what the artistic look pushed and did for us here. And also, once you achieve all this look, if you notice, one thing that we didn't really touch was the light tab. From here, because we didn't touch it, this is almost like an intensity layer now. That contrast tab, if you tap it and you scroll, you can actually reduce how much mood is in the photo, if that makes sense. And before we completely wrap it up here, you can save this as a preset. So check this out. We're gonna tap the top right side. So now you don't have to do all this hard work again. Create a new preset, new Moody test. I'll just call it that. Save. Done. New Moody test is added to use your presets. And if I reset this whole thing right here, boom, let's go over to presets. New Moody test, our presets applied. Now you've got your preset. The new thing on desktop though, let me show you this. So I just found this out on desktop. I know I said we weren't doing desktop, but just for your info, I'll hit the preset right here. New Moody test, there it is, but there's a bar here now. It says amount. You can literally scroll in this bar and it will algorithmically adjust the adjustments you made. Like if you think about it, we only touched the light tab with contrast, right? Look at what it's doing to, it's only moving contrast. It's not adjusting exposure, highlights or shadows or anything like that. It's only moving that and it's changing everything else we've worked on. It's insane. So if you're on the desktop version, you have this. I'm pretty sure it's gonna come to mobile like soon. If anything, it might already be there. I just didn't update my app. Absolutely insane. But yeah, that concludes the Mastering Moody Tones tutorial. If I could leave you with any advice here, make sure the composition is nailed. Having good composition, having a good background is going to make a world of a difference as you edit and play with colors. And two, there's no right or wrong way to edit a photo. This is just one of the ways I figured out to create a consistent look over time. And finally, I just want to let you know that I do have a Discord group too, so if you need more help mastering the looks or understanding exposure and stuff, you can chat with me in there. We talk about fitness, and I hope videography and photography soon as I connect with you guys. But yeah, if there's any other tutorials you want me to do and stuff, I'd be more than happy to share it. Let me know, drop a comment below, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.